Hello students, welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Shashwati Shah, Assistant Professor, Department of English, Sikkim University. Today we'll be talking about reading new literature in English, and the name of the module is Poetry in the Age of Migration. The content of this module has been written by Mr. Suraj Kumar Shah, who is a research scholar at the Central University of Jharkhand. In this module, we'll be talking about the concept of migration and how it affects the changing global space. We'll also talk about how the concept of location, relocation and dislocation affects the migrant population and thereby is associated with their identity, which is mostly fluid. We'll also be talking about the idea of transnationality, migration, and how this gets associated in the poetry that is being written by the poets who are affected by migration in this modern global space. Let us begin with the module. Now, migration has been a part of the human beings from the earliest times. Movements of people across territorial boundaries of nation states have formed societies and distinct communities since time immemorial. However, the second half of the 20th century was an epoch-making era in which migration, mass migration and global movement of people took up pace and intensity. International migration has grown in volume and significance due to the massive diasporas caused by the Second World War, the disintegration of British Empire, and the migration of the former colonies to the West. The process of globalization of the world economy produced highly mobile workforce. Students, we keep hearing about those people who migrate every year to the other parts of the world for better life, for earning more, for job opportunities. This also comes under the concept of migration. International air travel, mobile telephony, satellite TV, and the internet have escalated the mobility of people, goods, capital, information, and other cultural artifacts. Movement and migration and all the associated ideas of human condition of homelessness and a new mobile identity formations has had a noticeable impact on literary productions too, and poetry has been no exception to this. The migrant poets express their subjective feeling towards number 1, homelessness, number 2, dislocation, number 3, predicament in the hostland, number 4, cultural assimilation, and number 5, fluid identities. Now, these are certain terms that we need to understand in order to know more about studies related to migration. What is this homelessness? We all know when a group of population is migrating to another part of the world, they are leaving their home behind. Albeit they are doing it for a better life, in dream of a better future, of better working environment, better job, yet there is always a longing for the home that they have left behind, a nostalgia, and a feeling of being homeless. Next comes the idea of dislocation. Now, what is this dislocation? We all know that migration, in case of migration, we are leaving a space behind. We are moving from one location to another. There is a dislocation of those people and who are always attempting to relocate themselves in another geographical space. In this condition, what they suffer from is the anxiety of identity, because space and identity is associated, linked to each other, and therefore they find this very difficult to understand to which exact location do they belong to. Next is the concept of predicament in the hostland. Now, what is this hostland? Hostland is this new land that they have migrated to. Now, the question is, how hospitable is this new hostland? It is the place that the migrant population tried to build a new home for themselves. How friendly is this atmosphere? Are they able to be at home in this new place? All this also is something that is questioned and gets reflected in the kind of literature that comes out of the migrant population. Next comes the concept of cultural assimilation. There's always this feeling among the migrant population, the dream of being assimilated into the culture. But also we have to question the capacity of this new place that they have migrated to assimilate those people. Are they friendly enough to accommodate another group of people who have a different cultural habit? That is something that is questioned. And of course the concept of fluid identities, because people are moving from one place to other, their identity is not fixed, because identity is always linked with space, and therefore it is fluid, it is moving, and there is always this search for the identity of this group of population. Now we will discuss more about migration and identity. The immigrant poets are placed in an oscillating position from where they find themselves simultaneously inside and outside in a given cultural construct. Their poetic articulation of ambivalence becomes imminent for the political, economic and cultural forces that threaten their sense of a fixed and pure identity. Cheryl Debedine, of Indian origin, born in Guyana and immigrated to Canada in 1970, says in his poem The Beauty of Toes, and I'm reading a few lines from the poem. Here a white-watered terrain, close to Zambezi and the Nile, the Brahmaputra making us believe all rivers are one long vein. This is line number 28 to 31 from the poem The Beauty of Toes. Now you see, what is happening here is that although this poet has migrated to a different place, the new physical features, the new geographical features that he is coming across, he's trying to always compare with the kind of things that he has seen and experienced in his homeland. There's always this comparison between the new place and the place that he had been to. Debedine diligently portrays a picture of tilling the fields beside a white-watered terrain of the river Zambezi, the fourth longest river in eastern Africa, and the Nile, the northeastern river of Africa. However, it is the river Brahmaputra that overpowers the psyche of the speaker, that makes him believe that all rivers are one long vein that connects one from the other, the dispersed to the homeland in their imaginary. For immigrant poets, there has always been a need to reconstruct cultural inheritance in the process of identity formation. The abodes of cultures are framed by a dual desire to re-inhabit the past and to reincorporate the flow of time and tradition. Lucy Ng, a Chinese diaspora poet, in her poem The Sullen Shapes of Poem, wishes to accomplish self-invention without losing cultural origin in order to cultivate an ancestral cultural garden. The poet attempts to reposition herself at the crisscrosses of different cultural traditions for finding new ways of relating the past with the present. The loss of homeland makes the migrants build co-ethnic identification with others who share same cultural background in the host society. As Pirini Sundaralingam, a poet from San Francisco of Sri Lankan origin, asserts, and I'm quoting from the poem, "Destiny, family, fate. These are the words that remain when we find each other in foreign lands. When we break open each word of our language to share, to savor, to set free." These are the lines number 18 to 22 from the poem Language Like Birds. Now we come to the concept of migration, transnationality and poetry. The vigorous flows of people, ideas and commodities, technologies and information, coupled with increased role of non-state actors such as philanthropic trusts and NGOs, the term transnational has gained immense circulation. In fact, transnationalism in general refers to the multiple associations and interactions connecting people across the borders of nation states. The immigrant or diasporic poets celebrate the spaces of migrancy while moving across nations. They search roots in a new changing global configurations rather than roots. So you can see there's a pun on the word root. One is ROOTS, roots, which is the origin, the sense of belonging, the home from where a person starts migrating. And the other word is ROUTE, route, the new path that he is treading and tracing to start a new life in this changing global configuration. The social anthropologist James Clifford suggests that diaspora is by implication a traveling term in changing global conditions, which intertwines the concept of root and root. This is from Diasporas. Again, the pun on the word root and roots. Shanta Acharya of Indian diaspora of UK mobilizes her sensibilities beyond the constraints of territorial boundaries of nations. Her movement springs from her own native location of Konarka, Lingaraja and Jagannatha to other foreign locations in a transcultural circuit as seen in the following poem. And I quote from the poem, "How does one sustain the journey from Konarka to St. Peter's, from Lingaraja to St. Maria del Fiore, from the temples of Jagannatha to the Basilica of San Marco?" This is from the poem Italian Prayer, line number 3 to 5. The immigrant poets give diverse and decentered expression to home. Home becomes not only a place of living but also a cross-cultural process of transition and becoming in increasingly transnational interactions. Thuong Vuong Redic, a Vietnamese poet who first immigrated to Canada and then to British Columbia, claims that she belongs to a country cannot be looked for on maps and writes, and I'm quoting, "I belong to a country of the mind with friends and relatives scattered in Canada, America, France, Australia, Vietnam." Very interestingly, the name of the poem is Searching, and you can see the name itself suggests that she is searching for a place to which she belongs to. And since there is no one place to which she can claim to belong, therefore her identity of place gets associated with her family, her friends, and the people she had known over time. Another poet of the Asian descent, born and brought up in United States, is Tarfia Faizullah of Bangladeshi roots, who is on a travel to the homeland. The poet at Dubai International Airport takes her place in the queue among familiar people, the Bangladeshi migrant workers, but she feels a sense of alienation induced by the sense of smell of their bodies. She admits the shame she felt each time she shoved the way of the migrant workers to the front of the line in the corridor to the plane. Hence, her familiar trip to Bangladesh, but this time alone, has brought newness to her vision of her own self while traveling to the homeland. So you can understand the predicament of a migrant individual. He or she does not anymore remain of the place from where she or he has originated. Neither she can completely assimilate with the culture that she or he has now come to. This is similar to the case of this poet. Now, when she sees the Bangladeshi population once more, she cannot, at the very first instance, get assimilated with them. There is a difference between them and her. She is no more one of them, although she began from the place they belong to. Cultures dilute in the diasporas when it intermixes with the native mainstream national society in attempts of assimilation. The Canadian diasporic poet of Sri Lankan descent, Rienzi Cruz, gives an example of ample representation of this phase of immigrant life in the hostland through his poem titled Roots. Cruz contrives history from a cup of blood of Portuguese forefathers. It's a powerful imagery replete with the conviction that even though one's own history of movement might be transnational, the individual's lineage remains free of all borders and adheres to its multiple belongings or roots. As in the poem, the persona owes his black diamond eyes to the Portuguese forefathers and charcoal hair to his Sinhalese mother. The poet calls into question the relevance of a single state-centered notion of roots that determines one's affiliations. His approach relocates the source of citizenship from the state to personhood, therefore providing space for a cosmopolitan citizenship that transcends borders. Now, a general overview of what we have read so far about migration, poetry, transnationality. And we begin. Poetry in the age of migration is a tool to express the pent-up feelings and experiences that an immigrant has in the hostland, leaving behind his own home, family, friends and relatives. The cultural confluence in the host society further brings complexities in the lives of the migrants. That is why the attempt to sustain co-ethnic identification with the people who share same cultural background in various diasporic settlements in order to build a network of their own to survive in new social circumstances. The fixedness of identity is challenged in the land of settlement. The self-identity is translocal and transcultural, as it transcends one's cultural barrier in attempt to survive in and with another. They adopt aspects of the host culture and reformulate it in the production of a new hybrid culture, leading to hybrid identities. Homi Bhabha's theory of hybridity promotes in-between spaces to formulate destabilization of binaries that include homeland and diasporic location. The advancement in communication and transportation technologies in the era of globalization gave unpredictable leap to migration. This gave rise to transnational turn to migrants' life. Transnational living refers to social, cultural, political and economic cross-border connections that emerge both voluntarily and involuntarily from migrants' inclination to maintain and reproduce their social environment of origin from distance. The immigrants are also linked with the homeland from afar through digital and virtual technologies, through remittance and other forms of transfer and exchange. This is the story of all the students who go abroad to study, and as a result of which you'll see their parents also have to come to terms with the new technological advancement. They teach their parents how to Skype, how to do Facebook and all those modern technologies that are coming up in order to be in touch with their children. So technologies, virtual world of technologies play a very important role in this concept of migration. This leads to the formation of transnational immigrants whose literary output bears the signs of these changes in the identity formation, which is now multicultural and cosmopolitan due to the growing condition of cultural assimilation and global citizenship. Therefore, poetry in the age of migration is vibrant, mobile, multifaceted and multidirectional. Poetry, when written by a migrant author, tries to combine the elements of homeland, the concept of homelessness, the concept of identity, the anxiety of belonging, and the hostland in which they arrive with a lot of dreams in their eyes. I hope you all enjoyed the module. Thank you so much.